Welcome to another interview with Vocero Hispano. This week and the upcoming days, we're going to be meeting candidates who are running for different positions on this upcoming election day, which is just maybe less than 2 weeks away. Today I have John Fitzgerald, who is running as Democratic State Representative for District 83. He is here to speak about some of the things that some of the issues that he supports, or why you guys should vote for him. Thank you so much for being here. I know that we're at a critical time right now with campaigning, but we appreciate your time.
Well, thank you for the invitation. It's truly my pleasure. And yeah, we're close to 2 weeks away from Election Day, November 8th. And so thank you for making the time.
Yeah, for sure. We know that right now you are a member of the Wyoming City Council.
Yes.
You were elected in 2020. How has that position been for you, and what made you want to become or run for state representative?
You know, that position on the Wyoming City Commission has been incredibly educational, to my development as a servant leader. Within the state legislature currently, there are a number of former municipal elected officials, so those who served at township level or city level, who really have talked about how that base level knowledge at the localist level of politics has helped them become better legislators. And so I do think that my experience there will help me become a great state representative for the 83rd district. It provides a great wealth of exposure to infrastructure and water quality and, really meeting the most basic needs of people when it comes to my sidewalk is cracking. The water to my house is backing up into the basement. Those are the types of things that cities actually help with. And so it's given me a really good experience there, but it's also taught me a lot of lessons about public safety and community quality, parks and recreation, and how do we enhance the lives of the people who live in our communities. So I think it's done a lot of great things for my own development. There was a second part to that question. I don't want to skip over that. What was that?
What's making you want to run for state representative? Like, did this position that you have right now, did that make you want to go?
Absolutely. My experience on the city council, of course, helped to kind of say, this is a time to move to the state level to help to support this community, because we have navigated a number of important issues in my time on the city council these past 2 years. I do feel prepared and qualified to go do this work now, but really just looking at the makeup of our community, of this district, yes, it is primarily the city of Wyoming, but there are portions of Grand Rapids and also Byron Township near Cutlerville that are included. But it's all very similar. It's all a very kind of similar, hardworking, blue-collar, just honest people who want to have legislators and leaders who have their best interest at heart when they go to serve them in the legislature. And that's what really inspired me to go do this work now and run for this seat.
And I've seen you very involved with the community right now, so that's another thing that I feel like I've noticed. Your connection with the community, that's something different too that I have seen.
I'm a young person, right? I'm in my 30s, so is my wife. But we really felt like when we moved to West Michigan, now almost 10 years ago, that we wanted to be committed to the community. And so we became involved in nonprofits and, yes, community organizations. And I think that has really helped me see kind of the broader scope of West Michigan in general. And I think that as we look at, who is going to move or become our leaders in the legislature from Metro Grand Rapids, that has also helped me get a good handle on some important issues that are facing West Michigan as a whole.
Yeah. And we mentioned a little bit of some of the areas that you could be representing if you were elected. And we also talked about before the interview that there's a great large population of the Hispanic community there.
Yes.
Not to throw you a hard question, how would your support be towards the Hispanic community?
Well, I don't know that there's a better way to put this than this is my community. The people who live here are the people that I care about. There are certainly different needs when we look at, the Granville portion of my district, the Granville schools portion of my district, I should say, versus Roosevelt Park. There are different needs, but when we look at things through equity and inclusion and ensuring that resources are meeting, again, some of the most basic needs of our community, that's when we're doing our job best as legislators, when we have that equity view and we're making sure that we're not forgetting about any portion of our district when we make a decision. But specific to the Latino community, when I knock on doors, I'm hearing stories and conversation and needs about better schools, safety in the community and in schools too. I'm hearing a lot of that, saying I'm concerned when I send my children to school that they may be unsafe there. So safety, schools, better jobs, and job training. And that has actually been a focal point of my campaign. We see that our district has a high rate of employment. We, as I say, we expect nothing and we earn everything in District 83. And we're very proud of that, right? We work hard for what we have and for what our family has. And so when I look at how do we enhance the 83rd District, it's with better jobs and job trainings. So that way the wages increase to a point where we're not having to work 3 or 4 or more jobs to make ends meet, because that means more time with family, more time in the community, rather than away from your family at work for wages that simply are not being equating to the work that we're doing.
Yeah, and you mentioned school safety, and that was one of my questions too. If elected, how would you go about the whole school safety and the gun laws too? Because that's something that has been kind of, impacting the whole nation, not just here locally. But how would you go about that? What are your thoughts on that issue?
You're right, and the conversation around firearms has just been tragic, right? Because they're in the wake of loss of life. Even today we're still hearing news about the Oxford school shooting that was right here in Michigan, and then we have Uvalde in Texas that is fresh in people's minds. I believe that we need to make common sense reforms to our gun laws here in the state of Michigan. I grew up in a community, I grew up in a small town where there were sportsmen, there were hunters who did have firearms at home. And there was just a different level of respect for the firearm and education and making sure that people knew how to handle them properly. And that's not the case now. And so I am very focused on safe storage and making sure that people who do not basically have the qualifications to have this firearm, whether it be for mental illness or for threat of domestic abuse, or it could be a situation where there's somebody in the home who should not have a firearm near them. I want to look at legislation that is going to make sure that firearms and weapons of war, quite frankly, are not making their way into the wrong hands or into the streets unnecessarily. Yeah,
and I think that's an issue that has been happening, like I said, nationally. There's a lot of people that have been frustrated, and they're naming it that it's common sense law. So thank you for your opinion on that. There's another hot issue that has been happening, and that's the whole abortion situation. What have been your thoughts on that as well?
I am staunchly pro-choice. I do not believe that it is a politician's or the government's role to tell an individual what to do with their body. We never know what someone else is going through. And so yes, I am a staunch pro-choice advocate, because at the end of the day, whoever is making that decision for themselves, that healthcare decisions for themselves, should be able to do so without the government mandating one thing or the other. And I meet people in the community and on the doors who say that they personally are pro-life, or do not want abortion to be allowed in the state of Michigan, but that they don't want to make that decision for someone else. And I think that that's a good way to look at this, is that if an individual wants to consult their doctor, their family, their religious leaders to help inform their own decision, they should be allowed to do that, right? They should be allowed to do that. But I don't want to limit that, and so I am absolutely pro-choice and pro-reproductive freedom, because it just goes beyond abortion care and health care. It goes into contraceptives and what people are actually able to help, their situation, their family, and their bodies, choosing when and how they want to start a family.
Yeah, and that was something that I spoke with Winnie Brinks in our previous interview. The abortion laws doesn't just mean abortion, it also has all these other things involved with it. So you mentioned the fertility care, anything with child care, that's something that's been impacted as well.
It has a cascading effect, right? It's not just, it's not a this or that issue. It's a sum of a this and that issue. And I always like to say we can walk and chew gum, right? We can have good conversation and dialogue about this, because we should be making sure that the best information about, yes, Proposal 3 that is on the ballot on November 8th is in the community, but also what are legislators thinking as they're going to go serve our communities as well. And we should be upfront about that. So thank you for the question.
Yeah. And obviously you have a opponent. So why do you think the community that is in your district that would be able to vote for you, why do you think they should be voting for you?
Well, again, I think that my experience on the city council has just helped to, again, prepare me for the work that needs to get done at the state level. I've been very cued into safety issues. You know, I have been endorsed and supported by a number of first responder organizations and associations, from MAPO and POAM on the law enforcement side to the Grand Rapids, Wyoming, and Michigan professional firefighters unions. So first, you know, we want to make sure that people are safe in their community, safe and respected, quite frankly. We want to make sure, I always say that law enforcement officers, they're liaisons. They are a representative of the city in the community. And I want there to be a better relationship that we have there. We only do that together. And I think that those endorsements have definitely demonstrated that I have that mindset, that it's not just law enforcement, but it is proactive community safety that we can accomplish together. I think that my position on public schools and making sure that we are providing good funding to local schools is also something that differentiates me from others who are running for these positions. I do not ever want to have someone feel that their child cannot get a good education in their neighborhood, right? No matter where you live. And I have 8 public school districts that are represented in the 83rd District. 8 public school districts with varying needs and varying communities that they are serving. But no matter where that child lives, no matter where that family lives, they should know that they can get a good education right at home, at Godfrey Lee, at Godwin Heights, at Kellogg'sville, at Grandville, at Grand Rapids Public. We don't want to have to think, man, do I need to send my child to Jenison because that's the only place that I think that they're going to get a quality education. And I've actually talked with educators about expanding, you know, learning in your primary language, right? So is that Spanish? Do we have an opportunity to learn more in Spanish with our own school districts? Because I do hear about language services elsewhere in Metro Grand Rapids that are attracting students for that. So how can we at the state level work in concert with educators and with school boards to build a good relationship and ecosystem where children can thrive and then choose what pathway that they will be successful in after graduating.
And I think it's also important how you mentioned that the representation that's there, kind of offering the services, or how one person identifies themselves to have that available for them. Yeah. You mentioned about the whole language barriers and all of that, so I think that is important as well.
Yeah, and that's all about listening to the community, right, and then being able to act on those needs.
Yeah, and I mentioned before, I've seen you very involved with the community. I've seen you La Casa de la Cobija. Yes. So is there any more upcoming events that are happening?
We will actually be at La Casa de la Cobija right there at Alger and Division this coming Friday at 1 o'clock. Kind of hosting an open hour with, you know, the opportunity for people to come in and ask questions to both myself, but then also Senator Winnie Brinks. She will be there as well, so that we can have, again, some good dialogue with the community where if you have questions or concerns or needs for your family, we want to hear about those. I always say, you know, if you're a plumber and you don't have a pipe wrench, you don't have the right tools to do your job. The same thing for us. If we don't have good community feedback, we don't have the tools to do our jobs well. And that's why good, bad, or completely ugly, we want to hear what's going on, because that allows us and that equips us to go do the best work for our community. Yeah.
How has the community feedback been so far with all of these events that you have been getting? Have they been able to open up to you, or are they a little afraid?
It has been so welcoming when I am out in the community. People saying I've never had the candidate or my state representative come to the door and ask me these questions. People want to share what's going on in their lives. People want to have a conversation and be heard. And I think that the reception has been warm, it's been welcoming, it's been excited. And I love to be part of this change of saying we do want to be representative, but we also want to be accessible and available to you. I have handed out my business cards at many doors saying, this is my cell phone, this is my email, please call me or email me if you have a concern. And that type of mutual respect, saying we want to have a two-way conversation, I think has also been part of that, just opening up a relationship with the community.
Yeah, well, I think that your time that you're giving to the community is very appreciated, especially for the people that are in that area. Just wanting to get to know you and see what your views are. So,
Well, thank you.
yeah. Is there anything else that you think you'd like the community to know before we end this interview?
You know, I think that it's just that my heart is in the 83rd district. You know, my wife and I first moved to West Michigan, to Grand Rapids, and then we sought out Wyoming to help to plant our roots, to build our family. We have a baby on the way, due in December, and so we're starting our little family here in this community because we believe that our best days are ahead of us as a community. We want to be a part of that, and so I want to be that vessel, if you will. I want to carry your hopes and dreams and aspirations forward and then deliver good results from the state capitol. And I am committed to doing that.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time and congratulations.
Thank you.
Hopefully we get to see you more out here before the elections. I know that you have that event, so if anybody is interested in that, they are able to be there. It's at La Casa de la Cobija, and it's at 1 p.m. Is that correct?
That's right, 1 p.m. on Friday.
Okay. Where can people find you on social media or?
You can find me at John, JOHN, FORMI, so johnformi.com, or at johnformi on Twitter and /johnformi on Facebook.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. And as we mentioned, there is going to be an event this Friday at La Casa de la Cobija. It's at 1 p.m. If you want to get to know John more or get to know his views, you can visit johnformi.com, and on Facebook as well. We have that on screen. It's John Fitzgerald for state representative. Elections does take place on November 8th. That's just a couple weeks away. And to see if you are registered to vote, you can visit michigan.gov/vote. For more interviews in English and Spanish, you can visit elvocerous.com, our YouTube page, El Vocero Hispano TV, and our Facebook page, El Vocero Hispano. Thank you.